I had a friend once. Our paths crossed for the first time in our freshman year, when we stood in line at the dean's office to sort out the distribution of rooms in the dormitory. Just a couple of days after that, classes started. We had a lot of common subjects that first year. And lo and behold, one evening we discovered that we had become the closest neighbours. So 5 years flew by, filled with homemade duck soup, which Henry cooked in a hurry. In the end, we occupied 2 of the 3 phone booths in our part of the dorm. Sometimes we hung a towel on the door. It was a universal sign that I had a girlfriend, and my friend wandered around the campus, both hungry and chilled to the bone. Oh, let me tell you that we shared a lot of experiences and become closer than most siblings could ever hope to be. After graduating from university, Henry got a job at a reputable firm and said, "As soon as I get a job, I'll get you one." We lived in an apartment together for almost a year. When I met the woman who became my wife, Henry kindly moved out, giving us the opportunity to develop our budding relationship without him. I got married soon after, but starting a family was still on the horizon. Arya was finishing her studies when Henry made her an interesting offer. Under his leadership, a vacancy for a personal assistant opened. I thought about it. Although the salary was tempting, the office was just a cover for my crofinance, and making lats for my best friend didn't excite me much. Let's just say it was a little humiliating. It was not quite right to change your good name for a meagre income, although the salary was tempting. It doesn't matter who you work for, genius. My friend intervened, pouring another glass of cognac. Find a place for yourself, and we'll come up with something else for you. Hey, slow down, you'll miss your turn if you keep this up. I laughed. He shook his finger at me jokingly. At that moment, Arya entered the kitchen. Henry looked at her drunkenly, leaned against the wall, and with surprising sobriety offered, "How about letting Arya take the job?" I felt humiliated, while my wife stood completely still. "And your wife will out-earn you," Henry jeered. Just like that, those boozy get-togethers in the kitchen led to a moment where a friend kept his word and offered a job that ultimately went to my wife. I relented, forcing a smile through clenched teeth. The financial situation at home was rather pressing, to put it mildly. Arya started bringing in her own paycheck. The office changed her appearance dramatically. She never stepped outside without her makeup on. As her pre-graduate internship kicked off at the university, daily attendance was no longer mandatory. Arya had no intention of crafting her thesis independently. Her standard response to nearly any query was a dismissive, "Let's just purchase a solution from the corporate marketplace." This attitude transformed my wife into an eerie amalgamation of a person and a mechanized entity. One time, when I broached the subject of switching careers, I was met with a fiery outburst and allegations of being unambitious. According to her, I had squandered my opportunities back in the day, and now it was her turn to step into the spotlight and make her mark. Though I was puzzled about how a secretary could notably distinguish herself. The role seemed prestigious, but it was merely superficial, like their entire notion of a blissful, triumphant existence. The facade was tacky, a flimsy veneer erected on the knack for handling other people's issues. As time marched on, Henry achieved another promotion and, taking responsibility for his new workplace, took Arya with him, who opened a bottle of champagne in the evening to drink to our triumph. She was so excited about our friend's career advancement that I kept silent about my invitation to the design firm, not wanting to spoil their mood. A grandiose project loomed on the horizon, promising to fill our pockets well. Arya, excited, laid out sushi and began to dance a bizarre jig around the kitchen. Meanwhile, I was standing there, just enjoying the glow of my exultant wife. Our relationship has warmed up again. We've finally weathered that storm. I playfully pushed her aside and headed for the bathroom. As I was closing the door behind me, I heard the doorbell ring. At first, my thoughts turned to the arrival of our parcel. I almost exclaimed with joy at its fast delivery when I looked behind the doors in the hallway. However, Aria's voice, quiet and insistent, changed the course of our conversation. "Yes," she murmured. "I'm whispering because he's in the house." My wife's stifled laugh followed. Stealthily, I went back to where I started, and showing a little theatrical talent, flushed the toilet with force to hide my movements. Back in the kitchen, I asked the question, "Who was at the door?" My wife reacted too quickly. Nothing important. Her answer aroused suspicion. "I heard the doorbell ring. It seems a little premature for our delivery, don't you think?" She faltered, momentarily confused. "Oh, actually, it was the boss. Just reminding him of his upcoming business trip next week. In fact, his first." "Ah, right," I responded dryly, my tone coated with disapproval. Not thrilled about it. Her brow furrowed in confusion. I didn't catch that. "What's the confusion here?" "I am your spouse, and I am wholly against it." "Stop." I could almost see the steam rise from her as panic and rage collided within her. It was an oddly amusing spectacle. A tiny flame of spite ignited within me, and I yearned for her acknowledgement. Aria faced me, her lips flapping mute and rapid like a gilled creature out of water, uttering not a single word. Her eyes were alight with fury, yet her voice lost. "Well, since you're mute, I guess it's up to me to inform your Henry that he needs to scout out a new paramour, or should I say, an aide." Aria lunged at me in a flash. I managed to block her arms, although one of her nails etched a slash across my face. "Settle down. You simpleton, you've been deceitful, and now this stunt." Aria thrust her foot forward once more. "Careful now. I'm about to retaliate." That evening marked the disintegration of our marriage. Aria gathered her belongings and headed over to her closest companion. A work project came my way, and it served as a lifeline while I navigated through the turmoil of my divorce. Fast forward 6 months, and a name I recognized popped up on my phone. My ex reached out, requesting assistance, some cash, and a lawyer. Without hesitating, I shut him down before he could even finish his sentence. The following day brought a call from Henry, and let's just say his new digits went straight into the blacklist. Later that evening, my mother-in-law paid a visit. It turned out that this lovebird duo had been unceremoniously let go by their employer. My friend didn't just receive promotions, he was also entangled in signing a mountain of paperwork. Consequently, the financial burdens of that so-called miracle office landed squarely on the slender shoulders of Aria and Henry, transforming their dreams of an idyllic life into looming shadows of crippling debt and the threat of prison time.